there. Welcome back. And today I am interviewing Teresa Taylor, who happens to be a phenomenal lender with the University Lending Group. Let's talk about communication. That's a great skill to have, isn't it? Well, you want great communication, not just with your realtor, me. You want it with your lender. Because the first thing I tell everyone is, I ask them, do you have a lender? Well, I went online. No, you want a local lender. Okay. I can give you a name of a lender. This is, a company that I've used. Okay. I said, and guess what? What? She returns your phone calls.
So concept.
No, it is. It's very important. I can't tell you how many times I've hit, I've been showing a property. Let's call our lender and tell we want to put an offer in. Crickets. That actually happened several times. And first thing that was the deal that Kathy Branch and I did. And it was, we're going to turn you over to a local lender. And that's exactly what we did. I mean, seriously, they couldn't call back 3-4 days. In this market, you will lose. You're out.
Yeah.
I mean, because everything's going under contract. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you've experienced as far as the communication?
Well, there was a competitive offer situation I had a couple weeks ago that I was already really well acquainted with the listing agent. Had a history. I have known Taryn for like 10 years at least. I mean, we've had a relationship for a long time. She knows how I work with my clients.
Yes.
And in this particular situation, it was a competitive offer situation. They're all competitive now. And I think that that's one of the biggest reasons why, in terms of just my personal communication with my clients, with Taryn, is very important. But my history with the local listing agents is very important when it comes to looking at a multiple offer situation, because when they're familiar with lenders that have their offers on the table compared to lenders that they've had poor relationships with in the past, they're going to be talking to their clients and saying, well, I know how Teresa works with her clients. I know that this is a good pre-approval. I know that she answers her phone calls, and I know she's not going to disappear anywhere in the transaction. And so that's going to be very important. And when it comes to you, the client, it's going to be very important that you have a lender that answers all of your questions. This is one of the biggest investments of your entire life. And you need to make sure that you're working with a realtor and a lender that can walk you through the process and can make sure that you're comfortable with every single step that you take.
Well, one of the things that has happened to me is I've had, clients that called me and said, I've got some questions. Do you mind? Sure, go ahead. These are lending questions. And I'm like, did you call your lender? Yeah. What's going on? Taryn, I can't stand the lender. And I'm like, oh, well, we're in the middle of doing a deal, so this is not the time to get rid of your lender.
Yes,
and
I agree.
And I literally answered to the best of my ability, and then finally they shared with me, they said, and this is a very smart, these are intelligent people, and a young couple, very intelligent, said, when I talk to him, he makes me feel stupid. No one should ever make you feel stupid. And I ended up calling the lender and just having a brief conversation. And I said, I think they were asking, wanted to find out. Oh, God. I said, hey, look, I don't mind stepping in and answering some questions, but honestly, that's not my wheelhouse. But I'll do the best to my ability. And we got through the deal. And the big thing is, I don't think they'll never use that lender again. They're sure as heck not going to refer them. And, it was, I didn't have so much of an issue, but it's like, these are valid questions. And that's why I'm trying to go over some of this today with Teresa so that some of these questions are answered, not maybe every one, but it gives you a better idea that the importance of all of this, especially with lending. And being solution oriented, I think, is the most important. In other words, okay, you run into a burp or you find something, that's going on. You do everything rather than saying, oh, forget it.
Well, talk about the people who are not ready to purchase.
Yes.
Instead of just saying, we can't get you qualified. We sit down and talk about what they need to do to get qualified for what they want to purchase. Right. Because half the time, they can get approved for something that is a little bit, under what they want to spend. And in order for them to get a bump up, they can take care of certain debt. They can work on their credit scores. There's a lot of different solutions to, these issues that we find in the beginning. I also spend a lot of time educating my buyers in the beginning of the process so that we don't have any snafus down the line. Sometimes people don't realize that if you switch banks, if you close your account and open another one within weeks of closing, that can be a problem. I talk to people all the time about creating new debt. Please don't go shopping for furniture a week before you're going to close on your home. That could make you go sideways really fast if your debt to income ratios are higher than what we would like to see.
Or even co-sign a loan.
So this is I'm so glad you mentioned that, Taryn. So this is really important. I was working with a buyer a couple of years ago. Thank God we got this worked out at the end. But he co-signed on a loan for his son about 2 weeks before closing. And it was kind of a big deal. Luckily, his ratios were just barely under by the time we got to closing. But if he had more monthly debt to income ratio, this whole thing could have gone sideways really fast. So that's something that we always try to talk to people about in advance. And he said, I remember the conversation because I sent him an email and I said, here's what we covered, do's and don'ts. He said, I remember the conversation. I remember the do's and don'ts. And he did it. But luckily we got him through.
They thought they'd get away with it. They thought, oh, it's really close. They'll never. Oh,
yes.
Real quick. This is something you need to know. So she's pulling all your information in the very beginning. Okay, you guys are approved for this. When is our credit pull done again?
So we do what's called a soft pull. Every single lender is going to be looking at that crediting in a couple of days before closing. Why? Because we need to make sure that nothing has hit your account. And like we said, if you're co-signing for a loan a couple of days, a couple of weeks before closing, that can affect your closing ability.
So just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do everything the same.
Don't go shopping at Art Van. Don't, open any more lines of credit. Keep your credit lines the same from the beginning to the end of your transaction. What you do after closing is none of my business, but up until closing, make sure that you keep that information the same. And another reason why communication is very important, we do what's called a verification of employment. We do that in the beginning of the transaction, and we do it at the end of the transaction as well, right before you're going to close. Why? Because we need to make sure that you don't quit your job. And you would be surprised how many times people do that. Or, they decide that they're going to switch industries at the last minute. You do need to be in the same industry for about 2 years. Sometimes there's some flexibility if it's a close industry, but you really need to be in the same industry. So if you are an engineer and you quit your job a couple of weeks before closing and decide that you want to reinvent yourself and become an artist, 1099 artist, independent contractor, that's going to impact your ability to close. So just make sure that you keep all of that stuff the same.
Oh, I know. Don't go buy a car or anything else. So now that you've got the appraisal is done, everything is good. So now what they're going to do, you're going to be going into submitting various documents and everything.
And this is the conditional approval phase. So at the end, you get everything in, everything's approved, and we have what we love to call clear to
To
close.
close. Yay.
So those are the magic words, which means we're ready to get to the closing table.
Yep. And at that point, when I get the clear to close, I let you know. And now we're setting the exact time. So we're definitely going to do Friday at 2 o'clock or 1, whatever it is. So both parties, seller and buyer, we've got all the stuff arranged. Let you take the floor. So
And this is a happy time. So of course, like this is the best time of the whole transaction. Everything is scheduled to close. What I do on my end, this is just what I do personally. I call my client, congratulate them on the clear to close, and let them know to expect final numbers from the title company, because the title company and our closing department balance the final numbers. But one of the things that I always talk to them about, and this is a hot topic in our industry, is wire fraud. This is a multi-billion-dollar fraud scheme where hackers get online and they oftentimes will send emails out stating that they are the title company, and they will use an email address that is obviously not the title company's, but it might be close. And this is going to be a very important time for you to slow down in the process and understand that it's possible that you get an email that may look like the title company that states that the wire instructions have changed. And this is when you need to full stop, call your agent, call me, call the title company, and just say, hey, I've gotten this email. What do you think? Because we all know your title company is not going to change the wire instructions. Those will never change. So if you see something like that come through at the last minute, you need to just full stop, do not respond to that email, and contact us immediately, just so that we know that this has happened. A lot of very business savvy people have fallen victim to these wire fraud schemes, and it's very important that you understand that the FDIC does not, they don't cover these kinds of scams.
Well,
You will lose that money forever. And that's why, in the process, you will be signing disclosures with Taryn talking to you about wire fraud.
Oh, yeah.
We have disclosures. And I have talked to people about this countless times. I will send an email separately from everything else. Here's an email about wire fraud. Please make sure that you're reading this. And people still get overwhelmed with the process at the end and can fall victim to these scams. So I personally always make a separate phone call right before closing and talk to my clients again about wire fraud, and just say, hey, just so you know, your instructions are not going to change. You need to make sure that you know the signs of wire fraud.
I'll tell you some fun ones I heard. And this happened to people I knew. Their clients got an email saying, we made an error in the amount of money. We're going to require another $10,000 or $8,000. So it's a lower amount than the price of the home. Oh, well, here's the wiring, and they sent it. They didn't call to say, they just went, oh, okay, because, I must have missed it. That money's gone. And that was real popular about 6 years ago. And I don't know how many people, and I was telling my clients, don't send anything unless you talk to me first.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, I don't even care. You can call the lender, but I want to hear from you too.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually lender and I are talking, but seriously, you don't want to lose any money. And these people come in and they're constantly trying to hack into emails and stuff. For example, our company, every so many months, we have to change our password
Well, that's
for our
very important.
emails, because all my stuff, when I send out documents for you to sign, it's all electronic signature, right? Well, guess what? It's coming into my company email. I don't send it to my personal email. I don't send it to my Gmail. That's another thing. I see a lot of people using Gmail and all these different ones. I'm like, they don't have all those protections that a company email has. But we're changing our passwords now because it is so high level now. It's crazy. And the funny thing is, I've had had a title company say, do you know, it's almost safer for the client to bring in a cashier's check.
And it depends on their
Yeah.
closing costs. It depends on, you know,
It's just
what
crazy.
their level of comfort is. But
Be careful.
just be careful out there.
Yeah.
And it's always an important point to just kind of take pause right before you get to the closing table, know the signs of wire fraud. And then once you reach the closing table, either you're going to use a cashier's check or you're going to wire the money, whatever your next steps are. And that's a great time.
Yeah.
Everybody's sitting at the closing
Yeah.
table. You know, Taryn and I have our closing gifts for our clients. It's a fantastic time to sign the final documents and get the keys to your home. It's
Yeah.
great.
It's wonderful. That's one of our fun times. Email me, send me a question. I'm here for you, as is Teresa, because her information will be down below in the description. Reach out to us, and we're here to help you.